Formation of the underground collective members only, Xxxtentacion began to make waves on the SoundCloud scene, which led to him becoming one of the most popular rap artists of his time. And since both fame and fortune seemed to come out of nowhere for the rapper, who wasn't exactly blessed with the greatest set of lyrical skills, critics began to question how he had made a name for himself, resulting in quite a few conspiracy theories. But is there any truth to the claim that Xxxtentacion sold his soul to the devil in an attempt to achieve his dream? And if so, where is it? Before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss any of our new content. Interact with us. Subscribe and hit the notification button to be notified when we upload more content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment down below. Thanks. The early childhood of Xxxtentacion. José Duane Ricardo Onfroy, as he was formerly known, was born in Plantation, Florida, on the 23rd of January, 1998, to his Jamaican parents, Duane Ricardo Onfroy and Cleopatra Aretha Drina Bernard. Funny enough, he was actually named after the Bob Marley song So José, with the musical legend being a massive influence in the life of his father and grandfather, who were both staunch Rastafarians. But the SoundCloud rapper didn't just have Jamaican roots. In an interview with The Beat back in 2017, he stated that he also had Egyptian, Syrian, Indian, and possibly even Italian ancestry, giving him a unique perspective on life. He spent the majority of his early childhood being raised by his grandmother, Colette Jones, in Pompano Beach, Florida. This was mostly due to the fact that his father was away on work while his mother was unfortunately dealing with some personal problems. In fact, these problems seemed to creep up on X himself, who tried to stab a man that was apparently attempting to attack his mother. This resulted in the rapper being placed in a youth program when he was only 6 years old. Just 4 years later, his father was jailed on RICO charges, causing him to be deported back to Jamaica to serve his 9-year prison sentence. You'd never say this by listening to the tracks he left behind, but Xxxtentacion's interest in music was actually the result of his aunt persuading him to join the musical choir. Enjoying the melodies and lyrics of worship songs, he decided to extend his resume by also joining the choir of his local church, where he learned all about the Christian battle between good and evil, which obviously included the vast temptations of the devil. After being kicked out of the school choir for attacking another student, he went on to attend Margate Middle School, but was later expelled once more for a number of physical altercations. After attending a number of schools, he made the decision to drop out in the 10th grade. When talking about his early childhood later on in life, X went on to say that he was both insecure and depressed at the time, which was likely the cause of the physical altercations he was getting himself into. Suffice to say, the man had a pretty rough childhood and was essentially abandoned by his parents, leading to a number of mental health issues. When he finally found solace in music, he was kicked out of the various choirs he performed with. It goes without saying that he needed to find a way to be heard again, which is where our story begins. His time as a breakout star. According to the history books, Xxxtentacion's musical career really began back in 2013 with the release of his track News Flock, but things really kicked off for him after he got out of prison and began making music with fellow inmate Stokely Goulbourne, who fans will recognize as none other than Ski Mask the Slump God. According to X, the original plan was to get out of the joint and commit a couple of home invasions together, but when he bought a blue Snowball microphone, he decided to convince Slump God that music was probably the best way forward. After releasing a few tracks on SoundCloud and garnering a pretty large fan base, he decided to start rapping under the moniker of Xxxtentacion, with Tentacion being the Spanish translation of temptation. Suffice to say, this little snippet of knowledge will be important for later. It wasn't until the release of Look at Me in December of 2015 that X really took off, with the track propelling him to fame and fortune. This resulted in him being able to quit his job as a call center operator and pursue his musical career full-time. But what it didn't prevent him from doing is committing a number of crimes along the way. The release date of his album Bad Vibes Forever, for example, was missed due to the fact that he had been arrested on charges of false imprisonment, witness tampering, and aggravated battery of his pregnant girlfriend. Worse yet, these crimes were committed while he was out on bail for the act of robbery and assault with a deadly weapon. While in prison, he decided to sign a deal with Solomon Sobande and continued to make music despite being incarcerated. After becoming massive on the music scene and breaking away from his SoundCloud origins, it looked as if his bad deeds had caught up with him, resulting in his unfortunate death on the 18th of June, 2018. For those of you who don't know, Xxxtentacion was murdered by two armed men who shot him multiple times after stealing his Louis Vuitton bag containing $50,000 in cash. Why he had this vast amount of cash on him at the time, we have no idea, but it was a sad day for his fans and family for sure. This situation did, however, cause a couple of people to question exactly how someone like Xxxtentacion had become such a breakout star. There was nothing truly special about the tracks he had been making, with many having critiqued him in the past for using a choppy flow and lazy rhyming schemes. But despite this criticism, X rose up and took the rap game by storm, capturing the attention of fans with his controversial activities, colorful appearance, and often depressing lyrics. His blow-up was monumental. The first piece of evidence that conspiracy theorists put forward is the fact that Xxxtentacion went from nobody to somebody in next to no time at all. And while this may be the case for most musicians, with everyone having to start somewhere, the fact remains that X didn't release an award-worthy track until Sad, which was back in March of 2018, just a few months before his death. Before this, his tracks had a grungy and unfinished feel to them, which is what differentiated him on the SoundCloud stage. It goes without saying that critics still have no idea how so many SoundCloud rappers have made it big in the rap game, which used to be a lot different before they broke out onto the scene. And if we've learned anything from history, it's that as soon as there's some mystery in the world, people will begin to believe some crazy things in an attempt to understand or explain this mystical component. To them, it was mysterious how Xxxtentacion broke out with next to no talent or skill, resulting in the conclusion that he had made a deal with the devil. For those of you who don't know, Christian mysticism refers to the devil as the counterpart of evil, who has the ability to tempt believers into straying further from God. He does this by promising them fame, fortune, and other heavily desired things in exchange for the promise that when they die, their souls will go to hell rather than heaven. Who would make such a deal, though? Well, according to staunch believers in this conspiracy theory, Xxxtentacion would. And while it would explain how the man became so famous so quickly, it's nothing more than conjecture based on what others believe to be true. In other words, we can't exactly take this as proof of his so-called deal with Satan himself. Number 1. He has always been a bad apple. Another piece of evidence that is thrown forth by believers in this conspiracy is that X was the type of person who would have definitely made a deal with the devil. This isn't exactly something that can be disputed considering how many people he hurt for his own selfish desires. He was known to be a depressed and angry person throughout his life, which we can hear firsthand from the lyrics he often spouted in his numerous tracks. Remember, when he was only 6, he tried to stab a man and had to eventually drop out of school because of the constant physical confrontations he was getting himself into. He had also committed a multitude of crimes over the years, which included the battering of his girlfriend who was apparently pregnant at the time. So regardless of what fans say about the man, there's no doubt that he wasn't the best person in the world, and someone who is so hell-bent on fulfilling his own needs is definitely the same sort of person who will be willing to make a deal with the devil. That being said, this is once more simply conjecture. Number 2. His name. Another aspect which apparently points to this deal is his stage name, which, as we mentioned earlier, can be translated from Spanish to mean temptation. Does this refer to the fact that he was tempted by the devil to sell his soul so he could finally achieve his dream? Well, it would seem as if a number of conspiracy theorists find themselves believing that this is the only thing that it could possibly mean. But fans have refuted this statement by saying that X had spent his entire life fighting temptation, which is what his name actually referred to. Number 3. He spoke to the devil in Miami. Last but not least, Xxxtentacion also released a short track titled I Spoke to the Devil in Miami. He said everything would be fine, which caused conspiracy theorists to prick up their ears in disbelief. But once again, fans defended this track by stating that he was using the moniker of the devil to speak about the music industry in general. This seems to be a lot more likely than him actually meeting up with a mystical creature to make more music. But that's all the proof that's out there. So, what do you think? Be sure to let us know in the comments section down below.